I recently saw a New York Times article that said that median age in the United States is the highest that it's ever been, which I guess is not too surprising since we've been warning about the aging of the population for years. But it is, it did set off a little alarm bell in my head that we need to go back and think about the demographics. And by the way, to our WKXL New Hampshire audience, New Hampshire is one of the oldest states. Maine, I think, is the oldest median age, but New Hampshire is right up there as well. So anyway, we've been following the debt ceiling and getting all wrapped around that axle. But while we've been doing that, you've been keeping your eye on demographic developments as you always do. So get us up to speed. What are you seeing in the numbers?
Well, I mean, I think the United States really stands at a crossroads here. That we have the highest median age we haven't had is surprising. Is not surprising, excuse me. We've known the population is aging for a long time. What's changed is that it looks like it's going to age a lot more over the next few decades than most experts thought it would. Until quite recently, the United States was really an outlier among its developed world peers. We had a replacement rate, this is from the late 1980s until the Great Recession, that sort of hovered between 2.0 and 2.1. That's close to the replacement rate needed to maintain a stable population from one generation to the next. And it was higher than in any other developed country except Iceland, New Zealand, and Israel. On top of this relatively high fertility rate, we also had substantial net immigration. Together, high fertility, relatively high fertility, substantial net immigration seemed to ensure that the United States, despite the aging, Bob, of yours and my troublesome baby boom generation, would nonetheless remain the youngest of the major developed economies for the foreseeable future. And would also, unlike most European countries and unlike Japan, would still have a growing workforce and a growing population. No longer. Since the Great Recession, the fertility rate has collapsed. It's fallen in every year since 2008, except for 2014, and then a minor uptick in 2021 and 2022. It's now at around 1.65, which is about the OECD average. Meanwhile, net immigration, you'd never know this from the chaos at the southern border, but net immigration since the Great Recession has also fallen substantially since what it was in the 90s and early 2000s. So you put those two developments together, and unless they're reversed, the United States will age considerably more, as I said, than we previously thought. Let me just glance at some numbers here. The Social Security Administration projects that the elderly share of the population will hit 23% by 2075. But they assume a 2.0 fertility rate, so a big rebound. At a 1.8 fertility rate, which is what the CBO assumes, that 23 would be 26. At a 1.7 rate, which is roughly what we are now, a slight improvement, it would be 29%.
And just for context, it's like 17% now, I think is
I think it's 17% now, midway through the baby boom's retirement. So we thought that we'd plateau. Yeah, there'd be a steep increase in the elderly share of the population during the baby boom's retirement. That was expected, but that we would then plateau at around 21, 22, 23%, which is high by historical standards, but very low compared to where other developed countries were heading. Now it looks like we're going to look more like Europe. And that has big implications on the fiscal front and on the economic front.